Spec Series allows you to take highly tuned and balanced machines, mostly race cars, and it's all about pure competition. At launch, we're targeting 2 series that you can always expect to see on this schedule, GT and touring cars. We will also be featuring a rotating Spec Series to celebrate other racing divisions and one makes. And that brings us to the other side of things, the Open Series. In the Open Series, it's where you can bring any car that meets the class restrictions. The additional element here of choice means you'll never know exactly what you'll be competing against until you get on the track. At any time before the featured race start, you can jump right into the qualifying session. Here, you'll have a limited number of laps. Now, keep in mind, you can also choose your tire compound and your fuel load specifically for qualifying, so you can always dial that in to maximize your time. So whether it's changing your tires, taking on more fuel, repairing damage, pitting is where the action, of course, happens. So in the new Forza Motorsport, we've added 3 racing tire compounds. I've talked about them a lot, so you all know that we have the softs, the mediums, the hards, and even the wet tire compounds, and they all have those differing grip and wear characteristics. Now, while all tires degrade over time, if you have the simulated tire damage on, the racing tire compounds will wear the quickest. So keep an eye on the tire wear indicator located next to each tire in the HUD. And when the tires are yellow, they're moderately worn, and you'll start to feel the tires kind of go off and lose their grip. When they're red, you have the least grip, and you really should pull in the pits to get those new tires. So in featured multiplayer, when you land in open practice, you can select your fuel load and your tire compound. There are even some rule presets here where you can choose the kind of racing you want to prioritize, from a relaxed race with limited penalties and no race strategy, to a fully competitive event with strict penalties and required pit stops and, of course, simulated damage. Options in private multiplayer, well, there's a bunch of them. So I'm going to go through a few of them here so we can really explore these incredible new options. We have the access to the 24-hour dynamic time of day with adjustable time scaling, weather, dynamic track rubbering, custom FRR, damage, and additional ghosting rules. And other options include things like grid ordering, mandatory pit stops, support for up to 4 teams, and support for specific assist and camera overrides. Car restrictions include min and max power and weight, alongside a number of car configuration specifications like drive type or aspiration. Whew, that was a mouthful. All right. It's also worth noting that private multiplayer lobbies are not affected by safety or driver ratings, and similarly, matches in private lobbies don't affect your safety and driver ratings. Also didn't make a whole lot of sense to have, and is not going to be available for us at launch. And since we're on the topic of some legacy features that aren't in at launch, our heavy investment in pushing our new graphical features and our complete overhaul of the rendering engine unfortunately made split screen really difficult to implement, and is also not going to be in for launch.
Thank you for letting us know. Well, that's a lot of information about multiplayer, and I know you didn't even go through every single last option like we could have done.
Let's start with Spec Racing. In the Spec Racing series and featured multiplayer, and in Rivals, all cars are homologated and tuned and balanced from the moment you get in them. This means all cars in these series are purpose-tuned and built at level 1 to be competitive. No unlocks or leveling are necessary here for these cars to compete. Of course, you can always rent these cars for free, see which car you like, and jump right into the action. Now, cars in the Spec series in featured multiplayer and in Rivals will of course gain XP and level just like everywhere else in the game. So you can easily level up these cars for use in the Open series in featured multiplayer, or even in the Builders Cup. Now that's the Spec side of things. Now the Open series. In the Open series, private multiplayer, or time attack, what you bring is up to you. Cars may need to be leveled here to install the upgrades you want to build to your desired PI target. And you can always rent cars here, but of course they'll be stock performance and you won't be gaining XP or levels there for the rentals. And this brings me to the larger picture of how we are providing some guide rails for you to explore the over 500 cars that we have at launch. Every week, The rotating Spec and Open series that we talked about in featured multiplayer changed to new ones every week. That means new one-make and class-based series are available and focus the competition on that week-to-week basis and helps you with your car builds and your car progression. The rotating Spec and Open series can shift how the community at large focus their time and how they progress their cars. And that is in addition to all of the car progression that people will be making with cars in the Builders Cup and of course with Rivals. So, if you're a community organizer, you can use this knowledge of Builders Cup cars, Spec cars found in featured multiplayer, and this weekly heartbeat of these rotating series to help you build your events and quickly grow that list of potential cars for all of your racing. Now, if you're a competitor, you can use this weekly heartbeat to help you focus your progression of your cars and test out builds while you're enjoying all of the game's content. So this is the first phase of our online racing for the new Forza Motorsport. With this over 500 car list available for players on day one, we want to ensure that the experience offered here provides some guide rails for both the community organizers and competitors alike, while also delivering on this goal of falling in love with cars.